Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
Oh, boy. All right, 1:30 Bradshaw with you here. It's Thursday in the capital city. This is the final day of the Republican National Convention. It has been a hoot. My pain, again, hopefully is your gain, because I got night one of the convention was rough. Whether it was the string of small business people the Republicans brought up, and almost to a man and woman, they all received SBA government, backed loans, or literally gave PowerPoint presentations on how to get more government contracts. I built this. Last night was worse. I mean, groan-inducing worse, and I'll explain that in a bit. I do have to, unfortunately, take back the nice thing I said about the RNC yesterday. Because, again, I believe in giving credit where credit is due. When good things happen, you reward them. And yesterday, I applauded the folks at the RNC for getting through the night without playing, not Jefferson Airplane, not Jefferson, just Starships. We built this city on rock and roll, and they played it last night. So I have to revoke the nice thing I said and replace it, by the way. I saw this photo, and I have to give an award for, well, I don't know if it's intended honesty, but certainly honesty. Dan, bring up that RNC photo when you get a chance. Because, again, I'm trying to look for the good, right? That's what we're supposed to do. And I'm having a hard time doing it. You can email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Always interested in what people have to say. Or you can follow me on Twitter, especially for events like last night. It's not a chat room because it's not filled with a bunch of Ron Paul people talking about raw milk and pure strain gold and whatever the Ron Paul people talk about. Hey. But it's great to keep up with events. So this is last night. And again, this is the most honest thing you're going to find at the Republican National Convention. Now, I've scoured the internet looking for pictures for the 2008 Republican Convention debt clock, and it's almost as if it didn't exist. I can't find anything. It's almost as if Republicans started caring about the debt on January 20th, 2009. Like, everything was cool on the 19th. Like, we were set, we were where we need to be. And on the 20th, something changed, and everything all of a sudden went to hell, and we had to start worrying about the debt and the deficit. And again, unlike the Hannitys and O'Reillys and Becks of the world, I actually can back these statements up. Because when it said the Republicans saying, we built this, when it comes to the national debt, this is the second photo, it's actually true. Like, literally, if you want, no deficit, send Congress home for the next few years. Let the Bush tax cuts expire. You let the wars end. Because here's what's actually causing the debt and the deficit. The wars, the Bush tax cuts. Economic downturn is obviously part, but these are CBO estimates, again, through 2019. And you're looking at a deficit of 0 in 2018. So if you want the deficit to go away, if you truly believe that the deficit is the most dangerous thing facing this country, at least since gay marriage, that's all you got to do. But, again, rough night last night. Not just the Paul Ryan, and I was actually taken aback. I had heard reports that it was just going to be, the stump speech. I guess I'm not watching enough Paul Ryan stump speeches. And I saw, I don't know who it was, someone on the right complaining that the networks are, they're censoring the Republican convention. Again, I'm not watching. I watch it on C-SPAN because I have issues. I might flip on, MSNBC prior. Because the C-SPAN feed is just a straight, all the horrible musical acts, convention delegates dancing, former Iowan, Tom Tomorrow, if you're familiar, writes This Modern Life, made a good point. There's a ton of filler at this convention. Like, remember, they had to cut a day off. All right, Monday, they just, because of the hurricane, they canceled. And so they had to cram, 4 days of stuff into 3. But even then, they'll sit there for 10 minutes and G.E. Smith, and I don't know, they're probably not the Saturday Night Live band anymore.
Well, and look at all the filler they cut off. I mean, Donald Trump, that's filler.
Well, he was only in town on Monday because, I'm not making this up, the Sarasota GOP was awarding him their Statesman of the Year award.
Huh.
So ponder that one in your mind. But he was too busy
Well, Sarasota is very lovely. Have you been to Lido Beach down there? I mean, it's
I have
nice.
not. I'm more of a Key West guy.
I'm telling you, I love Key West, but Sarasota, very beautiful. I could see why Donald Trump would live there.
No, he didn't live there. He was in town receiving their Statesman of the Year award.
That's kind of awkward.
I find it very awkward. I wonder if they required a birth certificate for this. So, yeah, allegedly, it was planned that he was going to fire a Obama impersonator. That was supposed to be his big, shocking, a little tone deaf, but that was supposed to be his big event. And yes, that got canceled. Marco Rubio was supposed to speak, and he got bumped. But whether it's bringing out Jack Blades. Now, look, I love Night Ranger as much as the next guy. I've driven them around on golf carts before. And like American Idol and America's Got Talent and The Voice, reality show contestants are on to sing horrible songs, but there's a lot of filler for an already condensed convention. Honestly, the one name I was surprised to see on there was Huckabee. Not because he's not a luminary in the party, and he spoke last night, and we'll get to that in a bit, but because he spent the last 2 weeks going on and on about we must defend Todd Akin. And it makes sense from the Huckabee perspective, because if you go with the kind of evangelical anti-choicers, what Todd Akin said is taken as a tenet of truth. These are some of the issues that they tell themselves. That's why you've seen politicians repeating it since the late 80s. Akin made the mistake of saying what he actually believed. That women apparently have some sort of missile defense shield in case of legitimate rape. And I get to bring the story of Wayne Dumont, how Mike Huckabee pardoned a rapist because of Bill Clinton rumors, and that. So we'll get to that in a bit. But they're complaining now that the networks are censoring the RNC. Look, they're not going to give up all commercial breaks between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. Central.
Well, that seems fair. The RNC is censoring everybody else.
The man makes a point. But they're also complaining that they're only showing 1 hour. And this is one complaint I do get. The conventions used to be all-night programming. It comes in a dead time for TV. It's, the summer season is over, and I loved the season finales of Franklin and Bash and Dallas and Breaking Bad. Although it's
you're wrong about Breaking Bad. Next week is the mid-season finale.
What? There's one next week?
Yeah, there's one next week. I was so excited to find out you were
way.
wrong. Yeah, you're totally wrong about that.
Oh, I'm giddy now. I thought it ended the same time as the newsroom.
Nope.
All the good summer TV has moved to cable. Like, the networks are all playing cheap reality shows.
Well, somehow AMC really keeps putting out great shows, because Walking Dead, that's pretty amazing.
I watched like the first 4 episodes. I couldn't get into that.
You got to get past the first season, but it gets better.
But this is dead time for TV, especially on the networks. This is where you dump your stars earning stripes or whatever. We're still, 3 or 4 weeks away from real TV, the fall TV season starting again. So they used to show, hours and hours and hours of this. I have to say, after watching hours and hours and hours of this last night, the networks made the right call. I'm not sure. Was Huckabee in prime time? Was he on the networks live?
You asked me like I would watch these hypocrites.
Good point. Good point. Would this be a good time to point out that Dan is stridently conservative Christian?
That hates the RNC and the GOP at this point.
See? Broken clock.
Fair enough.
We argue in a very nice and polite way, but I think Huckabee was right. All the stuff before that was not. And
I think you're right, though, because Dace was going off on Facebook about he didn't get to watch Huckabee because he was doing his show, which
he has a sad, I'm sure. That's all right. He'll get a hate boner for something else later on in the night that'll more than make up for it. Maybe the only way he can, but let's move on. I can see why the networks did not air all of this last night. And here's something you probably missed on the networks that I will bring to you. I'm not sure the point of bringing out these two attorneys general, the Attorney General of Florida and the Attorney General of Georgia. And other than... I got forward the 2 minutes and 30 seconds in. The rest of this is just kind of pablum. So yank it off and fast forward. Because other than the Huckabee speech, which was okay, and the Condoleezza Rice speech, which again was probably the only grown-up address so far. The stuff was really bad. Pawlenty was mind-numbingly awful. He's supposed to bring this Midwestern
tax.
Here we go.
At every stage of the process, President Obama and congressional Democrats promised us that the mandate was not a tax because they knew Americans were hurting. And the last thing we needed was another tax because they knew if the American public were told that Obamacare was just a massive tax hike, they wouldn't have a prayer of passing it.
That's right. Instead, President Obama and the Democrats called it a mandate. Then they turned around and without a shred of shame asked the court to call the mandate a tax. Yet the president can't bring himself to acknowledge publicly that the only reason this unaffordable CARE Act still stands is because it is a tax. This is what happens when a president has such total disregard for our individual
Dan, you're
liberty
a conservative
that he knowingly
Christian. After watching that, I believe Republicans are no longer allowed to ever make a teleprompter joke again.
I was just going to ask you if you wanted to bet on how many Zolofts each one of those people took before coming on stage.
I don't think it's well, I think she's pregnant, so that'd probably be a bad idea.
Well, that doesn't stop anybody.
But that was Sam Olens, the Attorney General of Georgia, and a birther, I might add. He, said, I saw they sent the documents, but I'd like to see the president, step up. And one of my favorite attorneys general in the state, Pam Bondi. She was the female. Who is accused of firing attorneys in Florida, Teresa Edwards and June Clarkson. They were the head of a attorney general office that was put together to look into the foreclosure robo-signing debacle. They may have been a little too good at their job. According to Teresa Edwards, her firing came out of nowhere. We were completely stunned. Less than a month before they were forced out, a supervisor cited their work as instrumental in triggering a nationwide review of such practices. Then on May 20th, they were told they could resign or be fired and that they would lose their association with the Attorney General's office by close of business that day. You can't make the banks look bad. So those two, it was bad teleprompter reading. I think that's the only way to put it.
You'd think they'd get those little clear ones, like President Obama.
Well, they had those.
Did they? I didn't see.
They were kind of off to the side.
Yeah, that was bad.
And there's a big one kind of back where the camera is, so when you're looking straight ahead, you can see the teleprompter and make your address sound like a high school intro to speech class.
I do not know what you are talking about.
But Republicans have been making teleprompter jokes for years. Now,
well,
credit where credit is due. Condi Rice did not use a teleprompter last night.
Well, Barack Obama uses a teleprompter. George W. Bush didn't as much, and it showed.
Well, no, he actually did. That's the scary part. So did Ronald Reagan, but we don't talk about those things because to be a Republican in 2012, you have to believe that Barack Obama is an all-powerful dictator looking to destroy American society with socialism and Kenyan anti-colonialism. He is a tyrant who is taking over the healthcare system. At the same time, he is an empty suit that can't string together sentences and relies on his teleprompter because he's just so weak and nothing.
I don't really see the problem with teleprompters. Although I can't talk, teleprompters are because you don't have crap like this. But, how many times have you said something on the radio and wished you could have fleshed that out a little better? So writing your speech out makes a lot of sense because you can go through it. Politicians
use pre-written statements.
It's a silly thing.
Speech. Well, it is a silly thing, but it's a party of silly things at the moment.
I think both parties poke
they're upset. Literally, Republicans are upset that Barack Obama's Tumblr page posted a tribute to Neil Armstrong.
Of course, the Democrat people were upset because George W. Bush woke up in the morning. So, it's kind of a give and take.
Look, I don't have a problem with someone saying, I think Obama is wrong. This is a bad idea. I have a better way of doing it. That's what we should have in this country. I don't think, look, this was a party that stood up. Mitch McConnell, the man looks a little like a turtle, stood up before Barack Obama was even inaugurated and said, our number one goal is making Barack Obama a one-term presidency. Now, whether you believe Joe Biden or not, he said, because again, he has a long, distinguished career in Congress, had Republican congressmen coming up to him and saying, look, we can't help you out on anything. Now, you might not believe Joe Biden, but the record certainly backs up what he's saying. And again, this is one of the biggest failings of the first Obama term. trying to reach across the aisle. For example, with the stimulus program. And we'll talk about that later. Because, again, Republicans, even Mitt Romney, was for stimulus before Barack Obama did stimulus.
Yeah, I always thought that was weird because we had Bush handing out stimulus and everybody thought it was
checks.
Great. Yeah, I got no check
He sent checks with his name on it. Look what I did. I'm George Bush.
I built this.
I built this stimulus check that I'm sending you.
Or he robo-signed it, which is another different problem altogether.
Use the auto pen. Why not? I have no problem with that. It's like literally just because Obama does it. I heard, I made the mistake of tuning into some Huckabee today while I was on the road. As if I-235 is not frustrating enough. Hearing Grover Norquist and Mike Huckabee complaining about things is enough to, at some point it's just, vessels are going to burst.
Don't you keep duct tape in your car?
Not for inside the cranium. Yeah, it's hard to reach.
You put it around and it kind of keeps pressure from reaching that catastrophic point. It's a Glenn Beck thing.
But, listening to them, complain about, for example, cap and trade. Does everyone know, by the way, where cap and trade came from? The Reagan administration was finally put into practice in the first Bush administration as an, effort to stop the problem of acid rain. And guess what? It worked. These are Republican ideas that when Democrats say, you're right, let's do it. Well, hold on a minute here. Now it's going to destroy the energy markets, and now it's a horrible idea, and it's anti-free market. Even Obamacare. When the individual mandate popped on the scene, it was pushed by the Conservative Heritage Foundation. It was adopted by Bob Dole, the Republican candidate for president in 1996. And when President Obama says, all right, it's the best thing I'm going to be able to get passed, we will use your model. Now it's a government socialistic takeover of health care. You joke about President Bush, but I don't think there's anything Barack Obama can do that the right will not become infuriated about. And I know there are some that are just looking for things to be agitated about. There are just those people out there. Again, the rest is just the messaging machine. Churn and churn and churn. And occasionally you get glimpses, when Chuck Grassley had multiple meetings at the White House about health care reform. He was seen as an honest broker, as someone that could cut a deal. We saw how that worked out on a street corner here in Central Iowa, where he stands up and says that Obama wants to pull the plug on grandma. And literally said, because again, he was the lead Republican negotiator. They said the Obama White House could give him everything he wanted in negotiations. And he still wouldn't vote for it unless Republicans came along. Way to lead, Chuck. Last night, John McCain, speaking, RNC, was criticizing defense cuts. That's kind of typical Republican.
John McCain is still alive.
Hold on. That he voted for. Paul Ryan cracks on the president as part of the debt ceiling deal. There was supposed to be there is a poison pill, which is come to an agreement on deficit reduction, or 700 million gets cut from defense, 700 million gets cut from other spending. It was supposed to be an incentive, like this money's going to get cut one way or another. This was the deal. When John Boehner said he got 98% of what he wanted, this was the deal that Paul Ryan voted for, that John McCain voted for, and now they're criticizing the president over. There's nothing this president can do. Maybe that'll change in a second term, but again, It boils down to something very simple. If the economy improves, is it A, harder, or B, more difficult for Republicans to get elected? Obviously, A. What incentive do Republicans have for the economy to improve? And this is why instead of jobs bills, we get over 50 bills trying to ban various aspects of abortion out of the House of Representatives since they've taken over. Instead of the stimulus that Mitt Romney was calling for in 2008, we get a bill, I'm not making this up, House Republicans passed a bill banning ICE, the Immigration Service, from using taxpayer money for abortions. One slight problem, ICE has never paid for an abortion. They're literally banning things that don't exist. In between renaming post offices and bringing up debt ceiling dragon posters. I'm not kidding. Chuck Grassley actually did that on the floor of the Senate. This is what Republicans do with their power, with their influence, with their ability to change things. This is literally a party of nothing. And it shows. When we come back, selected highlights from the convention speeches last night. And yes, we will break down the factually challenged speech from Vice President nominee Paul Ryan. And the media fail. We'll talk about that and more. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. Time to change. I'm going to have a cool, refreshing beverage, and we'll be back right after this on webcastonelive.com and fallonforum.com. Thanks for watching.
I'm just saying. 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 Ching ching. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Feeling alone? God knows and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's time to start.
There we go.
Rock concert movement number 1.
How long I have to hold
The
that?
basic head bob. Ready, go.
All right, straight up 2 o'clock. Brad Show with you here on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. It's hot. Are we going to get up to actually 100 today?
That is what I hear.
That was the forecast, but excuse me. We'll see. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com, and follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. If you're on your mobile device, if you are on a tablet or at work and don't want to watch the video, I understand. We have the audio-only feed. It's right there. It's a service, Mixler. An app is coming. In the meantime, that address, and I know it works on Android, I know it works on iOS, and BlackBerry users, I don't know, go back to Canada or something. I'm sure you can get the Tim Hortons website or the latest NHL scores. But it probably works there as well. I just don't know anyone.
It's specifically designed for BlackBerry, actually.
I don't know anyone with a BlackBerry, so wonderful. Carry on then. Save you on the bandwidth bills, and you can listen, Bluetooth on the car stereo. When you're tooling around in the minivan, I help you out. So it's right there. I also tweet the link. Go to my Twitter page, twitter.com/RadioBradshaw, and you can find the link there. Last night's Republican National Convention, let's get back on topic here, was groan-worthy. These are the best of the jokes, and there were quite a few. Tim Pawlenty in particular was doing, and I don't know what Tim Pawlenty was doing. I would assume trying to find jokes so bad that Carlos Mencia would not rip them off. That's the only thing I can come up with, the only plausible explanation. But this is the best of Republican humor last night.
He hasn't been working to earn re-election. He's been working to earn a spot on the PGA Tour.
The next question is, do you think you could take him one-on-one? And I say, I really don't know. I've never seen him play. But I can tell you this, President Obama would be easy to defend because he's always going to go to his left.
He forgot the O.
The president takes more vacations than that guy on the Bizarre Food Show. And I'll give Barack Obama credit for creating jobs these last 4 years. For golf caddies.
My name is Rob Portman, and they say I was on Governor Romney's short list of vice presidential candidates. Apparently, it wasn't short enough.
The only hitch in an otherwise perfect week was the awful noise coming from the hotel room next door to mine. Turns out it was just Debbie Wasserman Schultz practicing her speech for the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte next week. Bless her heart.
I'm still trying to figure out how Debbie Wasserman Schultz comes in. Is this the time to point out
they're not very funny.
Mike Huckabee is a minister. I've never been to seminary or anything, but I don't know, the put down joke. Do they give classes on that?
I wish I could say that that's not something a pastor would do, but pastors are still human. And
is that what Jesus would do?
It depends on who you're talking to. See, Jesus, if you were talking to like a Jew who was supposed to be a follower of Jesus, maybe. But if you're talking to a completely lost person, Probably not.
I don't think Jesus did put down jokes.
Oh, no, he definitely did. All those parables? Come on now. When somebody starts talking to you in parables like you're in kindergarten, well, if you take the red apple and you put it... Come on. I mean, Jesus definitely talked down to people, but the spirit wasn't mean.
Yeah, there wasn't like the insult comic. And seriously, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I assume that was a joke written about someone else that he switched names in. It does give me a chance to tell my favorite Mike Huckabee story. Well, okay, least favorite, but Wayne Dumond in 1984 was convicted of raping a 17-year-old girl. In 1984, the governor of Arkansas was Bill Clinton. Now, those of us who remember the 90s and pumping up our TVs, our tennis shoes and Grandmama and NBA Jam, he's on fire. Remember, there was nothing out of bounds when it came to insulting Bill Clinton. He was a drug dealer. He was a murderer. One of the themes, and this was in Arkansas. This was before it went national. Dumond became kind of a cause celeb by the wackos of the party. And they wrote books claiming that Wayne Dumond was framed and, well, again, depending on the theory crafter, but basically, because the victim was a second cousin once removed of Bill Clinton, Wayne Dumond was an innocent man that was set up and, punished severely because of the connection to Bill Clinton. In 1996, then Governor Mike Huckabee pardoned Wayne Dumond, set Wayne Dumond free. I'm sorry, he wasn't pardoned. He was paroled. Governor Huckabee supported his parole. Now, there's two different. One group says it's because that Wayne Dumond became, a born-again Christian, and Mike Huckabee eats that stuff up. Whichever way you want to go. But he was paroled with, help from Huckabee in an effort to, appease the, nuts. Because, again, what started as sort of a fever dream of we hate Bill Clinton, became a full-on, pandemic by the mid-90s. So Wayne Dumond is paroled. And 2 years later, within weeks, he sexually assaulted and murdered a 39-year-old woman in Kansas City. Huckabee's response was that he was horrified and there was no way he could have known, except, and this is what came up during Huckabee's run for the White House. He was provided letters from several women who had been sexually assaulted by Dumond that also predicted that he would rape again and perhaps murder if released. One victim warned, "I feel that if he is released, it is only a matter of time before he commits another crime, and fear that he will not leave a witness to testify against him the next time." Before Dumond was granted parole at Huckabee's urging, requests show that Huckabee's office received a copy of this letter from Arkansas's parole board. The woman later wrote directly to Huckabee about having been raped by Dumond. In a letter obtained by the Huffington Post, she said that Dumond had raped her while holding a butcher knife to her throat and while her then 3-year-old daughter lay in bed next to her. Also included in the files sent to Huckabee's office was a police report in which Dumond confessed. Dumond was not charged with that particular case because he later refused to sign the confession because the woman was afraid to press charges. Huckabee kept these and other documents secret because they were politically damaging, according to a former aide who worked for him in Arkansas. The aide has made the records available to the Huffington Post, deeply troubled by Huckabee's repeated claims he had no reason to believe Dumond would commit other violent crimes upon his release from prison. That's Mike Huckabee. Minister and bad joke teller. and brought to you by the Cumulus media networks. Another thing, we'll get into, I guess, his speech a bit. And this is why he was left on the speaking schedule. He was left to give an address for one line. Here's what Huckabee said. Let me be clear about whether the guys like me would support an evangelical. Only support an evangelical. Of the 4 people on the 2 tickets, only one self-professed evangelical is Barack Obama. And he supports changing the definition of marriage, believes that human life is disposable and expendable at any time in the womb or even beyond the womb. I can explain. This is another part of the things conservatives and anti-choicers convince themselves of. And when he's talking about the claims by a woman named Jill Stanek. Danny, you have any idea who Jill Stanek is?
No.
Let me help you. She's an anti-choicer who, I don't know, her claim to fame.
You mean pro-life? Is that what you're calling anti-choice?
No, because pro-lifers would care about what happens to a child after it comes out of the vagina. So most Republicans don't qualify.
Okay. I'll let... go ahead.
Again, you got to be for me, you got to be anti-war, against the death penalty, and anti-abortion. And then we can talk about being pro-life.
Can I be pro-innocent life? How about that?
Where were you on the Iraq War?
Which one?
The second one.
At what point in history?
2003.
When it started, or after we saw everything come out about it?
Did your opinion change?
Absolutely.
I get that's progress.
Well, there's a difference between being misled and being told, "Oh, this is for this."
You got hoodwinked, bamboozled. Yeah. You didn't land on Fallujah. Fallujah landed on you.
Yeah, and then you start looking at the facts and go, "This seems an awful lot like oil," but that's besides the point. But go ahead.
Anyway, Jill Stanek is an anti-choicer who came to fame by standing up and claiming that the hospital she worked at in Illinois, make sure I get this right, performed botched abortions, accidentally delivering babies alive, and then tossing them in a utility closet to die. That sounds abhorrent.
Yes, I remember that story.
Okay. See, so Jill Stanek is the woman who gave life to that story. The problem is, or I guess the good thing is, when you make claims like this, they tend to get investigated. A state investigation into the hospital and the records actually could not back up her story. There was no evidence to substantiate it.
Didn't Ron Paul have a similar story, though?
Ron Paul has a lot of stories.
Well, I think he had one where he walked into an abortion being done and the baby was gasping its last breaths, and that's when he became pro-life.
Well, he's always been an anti-choicer. He's tried to pass multiple
I think he has a story
amendments.
I remember this story, and I mean...
But that was Jill Stanek's claim to fame, and it was in Illinois, and this is where it ties into Barack Obama. Because even though the investigation came up with nothing, she, with the help of some pandering state legislators, tried to pass the Born Alive Act. Even though what she described was already against Illinois law. Here, we'll go to factcheck.org. This is what they had to say about the Born Alive Act. What Obama voted against was legislation that would have extended the law's protection to any aborted fetus that shows any sign of life, even if doctors are certain it cannot survive. To translate, it means that basically have to do, life-saving, heroic measures, they call it. The same thing that people, get the do not resuscitate orders for. when they do a late-term abortion. Now, maybe that's something you're for, and that's okay. I mean, I disagree. But this applies specifically to partial birth abortion.
That seems kind of ridiculous, because if they're going through an abortion, isn't the whole point to
not
kill
always,
the
because the late-term abortion most oftentimes, and not to pick on one person, but like the Karen Santorum, where this baby's not going to survive. And what a lot of people asked for was a whole and complete, body to bury. Instead of, they wanted to have, Rick Santorum brought it home. Have photos taken, and when the fetus has no chance of life, they want something whole to bury. That's their thing. Under this law, you would have to then go through heroic measures to.
And what's your objection to the heroic measures in this case?
Because that procedure's not being done unless it's already been decided this is not a viable.
I guess I see where that logic is, but I don't have a problem with
I don't think you should put a woman through that.
Yeah, I guess
only 1.5% of abortions.
I'm more worried about putting the baby through it than the woman.
Occur after 21 weeks. Over 24 weeks, which is what we're talking about with the Born Alive Act, are already restricted except for in case of life of the mother. So yes, Obama tried to kill that bill. So in anti-choicer terms, he's trying to kill babies once they're born. Again, there are, I don't know, does that violate the, bearing false witness?
I think it's covered under the fact that we say he's a pro-choice president. I don't know why we need to elaborate on that much more.
Well, again, fine. That's an excellent, fine, and wonderful argument to have. But to then, kind of leave out a few things. I mean, he's leaving out completely in this case the context and implying that Obama wants to, kill living children. That doesn't seem.
Yeah, that seems pretty heavy-handed
to me.
But when isn't politics heavy-handed? I mean, that's kind of
what
we do.
It's kind of my point with Mike Huckabee. Is he a preacher or is he a politician?
I think he's a politician that used to be a preacher.
He gave that up.
I agree.
And boy, howdy did he. All right, got to take a break. When we come back, Paul Ryan is absolutely full of it. That and more when we return here on WebcastOneLive.com, FallonForum.com. Thanks for watching.
I'm just saying. 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 Ching ching. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Feeling alone? God knows and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One.
Time to start. Rock concert movement number 1.
What's happening?
The basic head bob.
All right, Bradshaw with you here on webcast1live.com, foundforum.com. Email me, radiobradshaw, one word, @gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. Especially tonight, right? This is finale of the Republican National Convention. There will be a lot to say during it. Most of it by the lady friend who does not want to watch this stuff on TV. The dog is okay. As long as we bought him a very large rawhide. Went to the new Hy-Vee last night. It was very nice. Bought him a very large basted rawhide, so he's fine. I'm getting tired of what? I mean, it is painful, whether it's Branstad shouting down Gwen Ifill for pointing out that you're pushing false talking points. Do you know this? Last night, another business owner was brought up. This time it was Steve Cohen, who is the president of Screen Machine Industries, was brought up to, play the "we built this" card. Conveniently leaving out the $2 million in government contracts and the $200,000 in stimulus money that his business received. Other than that, he built it. He just built it with our money. And celebrated at a convention paid for with public dollars in an arena built by taxpayers. But we built that. On a side note, I would like to point out that I am a Major League Baseball player. Dan, did you know this?
Well, you are wearing a Cubs hat.
I am wearing a Cubs hat.
And knowing how the Cubs do traditionally,
I could probably play third base. The point is, because I've said it, it must be true. This is the only way I could see anyone calling Paul Ryan a deficit hawk. How can a guy, and this is the problem with running House candidates for national office, who voted for Medicare Part D, a huge government handout that was made intentionally more expensive by people like Chuck Grassley by making sure by law that Medicare cannot bargain for cheaper prescription drugs. TARP, stimulus, 2 wars, none of which were paid for, 2 Bush tax cuts, pro-bailout. Again, up until January 20th of 2009, no matter what, Paul Ryan was there to vote for it. He believed Dick Cheney. Deficits don't matter. That was the Republican mantra when they were in charge, when they wanted to spend things. Surplus? Pff, turn it into tax cuts. So if you just call yourself something, you're it. I'm also 7'9".
I'm actually Brian Urlacher.
You look like Brian Urlacher.
I am wearing the jersey.
I know, but that would involve you having slept with Paris Hilton. You might want to get yourself tested.
I did not know that.
5 pills a day? Who has time for that? Here's the response from Paul Ryan's acceptance address last night. The Associated Press claimed that Paul Ryan was taking factual shortcuts. John Berman on CNN said that the address was factually challenged. Donovan Slack in Politico noted inaccuracies. Jim Rutenberg of the New York Times said Mr. Ryan ran headlong into the fire. Mark Mermott from NPR. Paul Ryan stretched some truths Wednesday night, according to the fact checker. Carol Costello on CNN. Paul Ryan made some questionable claims. Chuck Todd. He's keeping fact checkers busy. The Obama campaign is trying to call attention to perceived inaccuracies in Ryan's speech. This is the Jennifer Jacobs, political writer for the Register. This is her response. You know, the example I give is when Branstad went on TV with Chuck Todd, who rolled his eyes at our governor because he kept repeating a debunked talking point. And like Chuck Todd's giving him like every, like, here's an exit. Why don't you, here's an exit. You sure you want to go straight at, okay. But the article is, you know, Branstad makes claims on TV. The Obama campaign differs. And I'm like, okay, well, where's the truth? I don't know. If you're a journalist, you should probably look into this. Maybe the best was Wolf Blitzer. And I need to play people. You can find it on my, I retweeted a link. Wolf Blitzer went on Jeopardy once, and it went about as well as one could expect. He was bailed out. That although I marked at least 7 or 8 points, I'm sure the fact checkers will have some opportunities to dispute if they want to go forward, and I'm sure they will. Like, why are you, I thought you were like, I don't know, a journalist. Shouldn't you point these things out? Well, I can. Paul Ryan last night went the predictable route. That, you know, Barack Obama is cutting $700 billion from Medicare. Seniors, be scared. Follow me. Here's what he leaves out. Those same cuts to Medicare are in Paul Ryan's budget. Another difference he leaves out is the Obama plan cuts to Medicare go to providers, and especially the non-cost saving Medicare Advantage program. It doesn't cut benefits, and it extends the life of the program 8 years. Paul Ryan's budget makes those cuts and turns them into tax cuts for rich people. These are facts. Do you know what? Under Paul Ryan's budget, the growth of Medicare is 0.5%. Guess what it is under Obama? Same thing, 0.5%. He literally takes this part of the Affordable Care Act, keeps it, but instead of funneling the money to extend the life of the Medicare program, turns it into tax cuts. The claim that is getting, and I talked about this, a week ago when he first made it. Paul Ryan took a swipe at the president because the GM plant in Janesville shut down. All right, remember we bailed. I said a lot of the guys I went to in high school worked at that GM plant. Right there at that plant, Obama said, I believe that if our government is there to support you, this plant will be here for another 100 years. That's what he said in 2008. Well, it turned out that plant didn't last another year. In fact, it was 2008. Paul Ryan actually wrote letters. Would you like, I can get you a copy, in 2008, bemoaning the closing of that plant. I guess maybe he's got a beef with Barack Obama not inventing a time machine, going back to 2008, and saving the plant. Paul Ryan last night Obama created a bipartisan debt commission. They, keyword here, they came back with an urgent report. He thanked them, sent them on their way, and then did exactly nothing. Here's what Paul Ryan left out. That bipartisan debt commission, Paul Ryan was on it. That urgent report, Paul Ryan voted no. Oh, and when he says, did exactly nothing, would you like to see Obama's plan for $3 trillion in debt cuts? Because I have it here. You can disagree with the plan, but this is not exactly nothing. At the final draft of the Simpson-Bowles Commission actually doesn't exist. It required X number of votes to be passed. It didn't get that. The members, like Paul Ryan, voted no. So there was no Simpson-Bowles report. Paul Ryan says that under Obama, it began with a perfect AAA credit rating for the United States. It ends with a downgraded America. Ryan claims that President Obama is responsible for Standard & Poor's downgrading America's credit rating. Standard & Poor's says the political brinksmanship of recent months highlights what we see as America's governance and policy making becoming less stable, less effective, and less predictable than what we previously believed. Members of the House threatened, and according to them, there was a hostage worth taking, the debt ceiling, which doesn't spend a dime. It allows us to pay our debts. Now, most Americans don't know the difference between a debt ceiling and appropriations bill, and Republicans capitalized on that and held the full faith and credit of the U.S. government hostage. Something that is specifically cited by the ratings agency that downgraded us. Something that Paul Ryan in the House of Representatives supported and took part in. But maybe, at the end of the day, the biggest, and I'll use a word that Wolf Blitzer's afraid to, or NPR, or New York Times, these aren't factual shortcuts. They're lies. They're BS. Paul Ryan attacked the stimulus program. Claimed that Barack Obama came right into office and wanted to, never let a, crisis go to waste. He immediately wanted to, change our healthcare system, government takeover of healthcare. Well, not true, because actually the stimulus came before healthcare reform. But again, don't let facts get in the way of a good Republican narrative. It's almost universal. Again, maybe not members of Glenn Beck's university or something, but among, economists. This is USA Today, not some, Daily Kos, not some, leftist. Economists agree stimulus created nearly 3 million jobs. A recent study by two prominent economists generally agree crediting the pumping with averting what could have been called the Great Depression 2.0. Again, this was a stimulus program that was actually made less effective in an effort to appease Republicans. A quarter of the stimulus was turned into tax cuts in an effort to get Republican votes. Their job was not to help the American people. Their number one job, so they say, was to make Obama a one-term president. So we're not going to pass it. Screw you. 3 million jobs. Oh, and by the way, what else did Americans get? Tax cuts, because that's what we gave Republicans in an effort to get their votes. Even if tax cuts have a lower return on investment than aid to states or even food stamps or unemployment insurance. This is what the stimulus did. But because it didn't have their name on it, it had a D next to it, it was the most awful thing ever. And I know, for a fact, something that Paul Ryan has a problem with, that he was all about the stimulus program. Why? We have his letters asking for stimulus money after he went on TV and said that he didn't. I didn't request any stimulus money, except for these letters I wrote requesting stimulus money for businesses in my district. Because pork is something that only happens somewhere else. And this wasn't even a new opinion for Paul Ryan's. Because here's video from 2002. Guess what Paul Ryan is arguing for here? It's stimulus.
Read in our local Capitol Hill newspaper that members from the majority party and the other body want stimulus. They're breaking with their party leadership and asking for stimulus legislation to pass because in their home states, they have a lot of people who are losing their jobs. What we're trying to accomplish is to pass the kinds of legislation that when they've passed in the past have grown the economy and gotten people back to work. We want to make it easier for employers to keep people employed. We want to make it easier for employers to invest in their businesses, to invest in their employees, and to hire people back to work. And on top of it, for those people who have lost their jobs, we want to help them with their unemployment insurance and with health insurance. What we're trying to accomplish here is a recognition of the fact that in recessions, unemployment lags on even well after a recovery has taken place.
You guys get all that?
So why is that? That's what Paul Ryan believes when Republicans are in charge. Why can't he just believe the same thing today? Andrew Sullivan maybe sums it up. And I know I got to go. So the disciple of Ayn Rand publicly says that society should be judged by the way it treats its weakest and neediest. Now, if you're familiar at all with the writings of Ayn Rand, you'd say that that was not her belief. And he sums it up: a man without shame or coherence. All right. I'll back that up. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. And we'll be back tomorrow to deconstruct the final, thank Hades, day of the Republican National Convention. Tonight, Mitt Romney and mystery speaker Clint Eastwood. Which is awesome, because now I get to go back and reread all of the comments that righties made about Clint Eastwood after his Super Bowl commercial. He's supposed to speak tonight at the convention. So there's something to look forward to, and we'll be back tomorrow here on webcastonelive.com, fallonforum.com. Follow me on Twitter. Email me. Keep the conversation going. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching.